So the first data we're going to extract is going to be our area of interest, otherwise known as the project site boundary. An area of interest is the area you will propose some kind of change, whether it be a planning concept or some kind of development. This could be something as simple as figuring out where you would like a structure to go within an enclosed area, or predicting where certain species of plants might grow. ArcGIS doesn't know the area you wish to conduct your analysis, so it will pretty much just do the entire area. To prevent this from occurring, we can create a processing extents called a project site boundary or a project site area of interest. So from here on out, I'm just going to refer to this as kind of just an area of interest. There are several considerations to think about when creating an area of interest. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on some layers here. I don't need my county data right now. What I do want to do is kind of zoom into that square there. So I'm just going to right click on one of these and go to zoom to layer. I'm going to turn off my soils and just kind of look at this map. And I want to look at this map here. We'll just start with our aerial. If an area of interest is not given to us, then we're going to have to create one. And in this case, we weren't given one. We were just kind of given a general description of the site. So you always want to check with the client and make sure that what you think is the area of interest is also what they think is the area of interest. And when creating an area of interest, there are several considerations you should think about. The first one is to look for natural or man-made boundaries. So in our case, I happen to know, turn off this other stuff here. And what I might do is just drag this layer on top. You can move these layers up and down by simply clicking on them and then dragging them up and down. Is that we have this parks boundary in here somewhere. There. So this file right here pretty much outlines our project site, except it's not really complete because it doesn't include the road that's running through the middle, and that also needs to be taken under consideration for our analysis. So the first one is to look for natural man-made boundaries. Natural boundaries to look for are those the natural community respect. So those are going to be, let me turn on my DEM, is going to be like watersheds. So a watershed is basically an area of land that drains to a common point. So if we look at this here, we could say that this area in here is probably a common point, and all of this over here probably drains to this point here. So that's kind of a natural boundary. Plant communities, and the edges of the plant communities where it changes to another plant community can be an edge. Some man-made boundaries, of course, will be streets, fences, property lines, and other political jurisdictions. The second consideration that we need to think about when creating boundaries is we need to remember that no site is an island. While we are creating these boundaries, it's easy to forget what is going on outside the boundary, such as how will the users of the site access the site, where will the water drain, infrastructure considerations such as water, gas, electricity, cable, sewer. These are all major considerations, especially when proposing a subdivision development. So if you notice here, some of these I didn't clip. And I purposely didn't clip because they're part of a larger system. And if I clip this data down, then I would never know how this connects to the larger system. So some of this data I clipped and some of it I did not, and this is the reason why. It's because the data that I didn't connect is actually part of a much larger system. So this one is street center lines. So that's another consideration that we have to keep in mind when we create a boundary, an area of interest. The third one is construction. If your site is surrounded by existing development, you want to make sure during development considerations are thought through. Can the construction equipment maneuver the site without damaging neighboring property? So that's actually a pretty major consideration because lots of people tend to just forget about that. So I'm going to go up here and turn on my inventory. Actually, I'm going to turn my parks back on. So this is what we're saying is pretty much our project boundary, and if we had some houses that were right up against here, and I'm going to turn off the DEM. Like for example, this house right here, and when we create our boundary and we do our analysis and we don't take under consideration, this house, the backhoe could, go all the way to his back door just to make a turn to go back around and move earth around, and we don't want that to happen. We also don't want water to drain into this guy's backyard. So these are things that we have to take under consideration. So again, the three major considerations are look for natural or man-made boundaries when creating an area of interest. Remember that no site is an island. And remember construction considerations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a feature class. And the first step in creating the feature class is to create the container. Now if you recall in past tutorials, we started with a graphic and then we converted that graphic to a feature class. We're actually going to do this in reverse. We're going to start with a feature class and then create a graphic from the feature class. And there's no particular reason why we're going to do that. We're just doing it just to get some experience on creating a feature class first and then making a graphic out of that. So the first thing I need to do is create a feature class container, and I'm going to do that using Arc Catalog. So what I need to do is open Arc Catalog, and I can do that by going to Start, All Programs, ArcGIS, and choose Arc Catalog. And I already have it open in the background, so I'm not going to open it twice. And then within Arc Catalog, we want to navigate to our project drive, projects, our project site, GIS, geodatabase, and then Marlock Park or project site.gdb, the geodatabase. Once we're in the geodatabase, in the catalog tree, we click on the geodatabase so that on the right side the content of the geodatabase is displayed. I'm going to right click somewhere in the white space. I'm going to go to New. I'm going to choose Feature Class. And then we're presented kind of like with a wizard. So for the name, I'm going to type in AOI for Area of Interest. And optionally, we can put something in the alias. So I'm going to type in Area of Interest. So this is going to appear to us, and in the background in the geodatabase, this is what it will be. So in our table of contents, it'll come in as Area of Interest, and if we go into our geodatabase and try to look for the full words Area of Interest, we're not going to find it. We have to look for AOI. That's one thing important to remember. As far as type goes, we want to make sure that Polygon Features is selected. Down here, we're not going to do anything with 3D data, so we're just going to leave that unchecked. I'm going to click Next. Here we want to make sure that we choose the correct spatial projection. We want to make sure that, so for our spatial projection here, we decided upon a projected coordinate system. We chose state plane. We wanted to use US feet, not meters. And the project site is located in northeastern Kansas. So we chose state plane, Kansas North, FIPS 1501 US feet. I'm going to click Next. We're going to leave this one at default. We're going to leave that one at default. And we're going to leave this one at default. And we're going to click Finish. So now in our geodatabase, we should see an AOI. Remember, the other AOI was for our adjacent area, but we need to actually have an area of interest that is our exact project boundary. Now that the container has been created, I'm going to click this Restore Down button up here. Make this window just a little bit smaller. Drag it over here to the right. And what I need to do is I need to add this area of interest to my data frame. So I'm going to drag and drop it right on top of the other area of interest underneath my inventory group. So I'm just going to drag and drop, and it appears in there. I'm going to turn off anything that I don't need. So I don't need water and sewer and all this other stuff going on here. I just need that one parks piece of data, and I don't need my soils, and I probably need my aerial to kind of guide me to make sure that I'm including important things. I don't need my water lines. I don't need my other area of interest. I'm going to turn on my inventory. And even though I have my inventory turned on and I have this area of interest turned on, and it should show up as something blue, there's nothing here. And the reason why is because we haven't put any geometry inside of this area of interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually put some geometry in here. So we're going to right click on this area of interest and go to Edit, Feature, and click Start Editing Session. So I'm going to click Start Editing. And as soon as I do that, my editor toolbar should open. And I have a panel on the right side that is automatically created. So I have area of interest and MPA parks that I can edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and drop this editor toolbar up here, my bar up here, so it's just out of the way. It's not in my drawing space. And then over here on the right side, I'm going to select my area of interest. And as soon as I do that, I notice down here as far as construction tools go, a whole bunch of tools become available to me. So I want to choose polygon. And as soon as I choose polygon, you notice that I no longer have a pointer for an arrow, but I have crosshairs. This is going to allow me to trace something. This means that I'm in the editing tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in over here to the lower left corner, and I typically digitize in a clockwise direction. You always want to be consistent. So if you go clockwise, you want to always go clockwise. If you go counterclockwise, you always want to go counterclockwise. So you notice right away that when you move your cursor close to the edge, it snaps to that edge. And it says MP Parks : edge. So it's letting you know what you're about to digitize on, what you're about to trace. So right now we're about to trace along MPA Parks edge, and that's exactly what we want, except we want to click to an endpoint. So I'm going to choose this endpoint here. Maybe I'll do this corner one first. So I just snap to a vertex. So I'm just going to kind of move my mouse along this edge until I get to another vertex. And we don't need to be absolutely perfect for the purposes of this suitability analysis. This edge does have kind of a slight curve to it. So right here is another edge. And I do want to incorporate this road. So I want to make sure that I snap across the street over here to the tangent. And I've got a curve situation going on up here, so I know I'm going to expect lots of vertices. I'm going to zoom out and snap to there. And we had one down here. When you get to the last one, you just double click and it completes the drawing. Let's just say, for example, you make a mistake and you have to fix it. You can go up here where it says Edit Vertices. And when you do that, you notice the little handles appear that allows you to click on them and move them around. So you can click on it and move it around. If you need to add some or get rid of some, you just simply right click on it. You can delete a vertice. You can also insert one. So if I right click somewhere over here maybe, I have the ability to insert a vertex. So there's a whole bunch of things here available to you in the context menu when you right click. So I've got my edit tool selected here, this triangle up here selected. This is kind of like the select element tool. I'm done editing, so I'm just going to click off. I'm not going to click and drag, I'm just going to single click to click off of it. And I want to save my edits. I want to stop my editing session. So I'm going to go up here to editor. I'm going to save my edits, and I'm going to stop editing. Now you notice over here the create features becomes grayed out because we are out of an editing session, and we can just simply hit the exit in the corner to close out of that panel. So I'm just going to zoom out. And right now that's kind of difficult to work with because we can't see through it. So we can change the symbology. Just right click on area of interest and go to properties, go to symbology. We can click on the symbol button here. I'm going to edit the symbol, edit the outline, and I'm going to choose something that looks kind of like a boundary. So I'm going to choose this boundary city. Make the line a little bit thicker so we can see it. Click OK. I don't want to have a fill on it. I want it see-through. Click OK, OK, OK. So now we can see through it. We can see that parks one that's underneath. I'm going to just turn off the parks. And now we have our boundary that we're going to use for our suitability analysis processing extents. The next thing we're going to do is create a graphic area of interest. So right now we have a feature class area of interest, and we're going to need a graphic one for in the event that we need to clip some rasters down. In ArcMap, in the table of contents, I'm going to right click on my feature class that I want to also be a graphic, and that's going to be my area of interest. And then I'm going to navigate to convert features to graphics. I want to convert all, so all is dotted in, features of layer area of interest. Conversion conditions, I want to draw the converted graphics and draw the features. If we dot in the top one, sometimes for whatever reason the feature class can no longer be displayed. I don't know if this is a bug or if this is by design. So we always choose the bottom one. The target annotation group is going to be the area of interest graphics, and that is the only option that you have here. And all this is going to do is make sure that the resulting graphic is going to match what the area of interest graphics looks like. When we're done, we go ahead and click OK. And it looks like nothing has occurred, but something has. Make sure that you have your select tool selected, and then click on the black line, and you'll see that you've selected something, and the something that you have selected is the graphic area of interest, and you can tell that it's selected because you can see the handles here.